Customers, employees, partners, regulators, and communities are demanding more from companies and countries, and we expect this to accelerate, including the vulnerabilities of energy, food security, and raw material demonstrated by the war in Ukraine. We believe in three focus areas. One, low carbon energy transition. Two, circular economy, focusing on water, waste, and biodiversity. And three, ESG agenda. The fourth force is metaverse continuum. The metaverse is critical to our future of work strategy focused on creating what we call omni-connected experiences, which transcend spaces and places and levels of playing field so many people can participate, contribute, and belong. That's important to act now. Imagine if instead of viewing an annual report of the company or a company, you could step into the metaverse, enter the boardroom, hear the executives, and maybe even interact with them, or hop onto a store to see customers in action, or visit a manufacturing plant to get a near real-time view of operations. You will do this and more in metaverse. This is something which is bursting the scene now. Fifth and the last force is ongoing tech revolution. In this period of dynamic and rapid change, why is it important to see around the corners and be leader in innovation and adoption of technology? New forms of technology, along with expansion of IT to disrupt science and other disciplines in new ways, will lead to further waves of innovation that stretch the imagination. Now I move on to the third part of my speech, which is reflecting on a few policy updates, circulars, amendments that surely hold the key and have an impact on the businesses. And I want to make a mention of five which are close to my heart, but there are several others. First is labor code. Though still not implemented, it has not substantially prescribed any new laws, other than compiling a set of laws as coalition of laws in 4 codes, except perhaps the definition of wages. The government needs to take a more pragmatic approach as this has resulted in additional cost and additional compliances and cost impact. To give a few examples, the new concept of floor wages and state provided wages on top of the floor wage. We'll have to see what that looks like and how it impacts businesses. Statutory contribution enhancement due to wider definition of wages. This affects the take home of junior employees. Though arguably the PF contribution goes into their own account, but people who are starting off in their careers are generally more keen on cash in hand rather than retirals at the early stages of their careers. Leave encashment in the excess of 30 days every year is another new aspect, which obviously comes at cost to the companies. And new allowances like reskilling funds and interstate workers related allowance will also have, I think, cost impact on businesses. There were certain flexibilities in old law which have not been carried forward, an example of which is every company is expected to set a grievance redressal committee. Previously, the ID Act did prescribe the same law, but there was an exemption if you had an established grievance mechanism. Of course, and despite multiple years of asking, there's no respite to multi-state operations. Now, many of us operate in multiple cities, and therefore multiple laws and compliances under state law continues to apply to us. Conflicts with state-specific shops and establishment regulations, for example, leaves, working hours, which are different from different states, are not addressed. Model shops law, which was mooted maybe several years ago now, it seems still is nowhere in sight. And how can multi-city operations certify, for example, their standing orders when law is variant in different states? How does business bring uniformity of terms of employment of the same company for employees spread out in different states? So that was just a reflection on labor code. Coming to the second legislation that I want to talk about is, which is very, very relevant now, is remote working regulations. During pandemic, there were regulatory relaxations, for example, to SEZs. And post-pandemic, while we believe it will be more a hybrid approach adopted by most companies, few issues are worth highlighting. One is the recent SEZ notifications. Though they permit work from home, but approvals have to be sought by mid-October, which is 90 days from the date of the notification. Though recent circulars do allow a larger work from home ratio than 50%, we will have to see how the DCs approach this percentage. Of course, the early indications are that DCs are very receptive to accepting a much higher percentage of people working from home, which is welcome. Number 2 point under this remote working regulation is, people are working from other than their base locations. Now, we have to address the paradigm as to, where will the cause of action lie? Will the labor authorities consider exercising jurisdiction at place from where the employees works or from their base location? Depending on the answer, this could lead to enhanced compliances at jurisdictions other than the office locations of the companies. Last point on this is working hours. It's very difficult to track working hours of an employee who's remotely working from home. And there is no current provision in the labor law to address how will the overtime, etc., be calculated and executed. Coming to the third law, which is very relevant to new businesses, is the Personal Data Protection Bill, which thankfully has been withdrawn in its avatar, along with the fact that a fresh data privacy legislation is being worked upon, which will include an all-inclusive legal framework for the entire digital ecosystem. The fourth law, which I want to make a mention to, is Competition Amendment Bill, and some of the major changes being the proposal to introduce deal value threshold so that transactions A with a deal value of more than 250 mil and B, where the enterprise of either party has substantial business operations in India, will require notifications to CCI. In my view, this could cause some disruption to the M&A activity in India, and some thought needs to go into carefully defining the concept of substantial business operations in India. We don't want to be in a situation that every deal needs to get scrutinized by the authorities. Good for legal fraternity, but potentially bad for business. The fifth and last, RBI releasing regulatory framework for digital lending that focuses on protecting the interests of customer in data and ensuring accountability of stakeholders involved in lending business. While there are many such, be it Energy Conservation Amendment Bill or the bill to regulate digital media outlets and many more to follow, what is clearly seen is that law cannot afford to remain static and has to constantly evolve to meet challenges of new situations and address both legal and ethical issues of such emerging situations. Part 4. No speech by a GC will be complete without touching on compliance as a topic which is always close to the hearts and minds of General Counsel and Corporate Counsel. And I want to ask myself 2 questions. How has role as a compliance leader evolved, and what issues are currently impacting the compliance and legal functions, and what measures are being taken to minimize them? Now, answering my own question, traditional approaches to compliances no longer work. To survive and thrive in these times, compliance leaders must proactively identify new risks and support sustainable business growth by redesigning compliance operations for the future. Lawyers are, by the very nature of our profession, expected to be agile. The pandemic has heightened this expectation. We need to pivot from being reactive to proactive to being predictive in order to thrive in an era of unprecedented volatility and complexity. Secondly, a leader from fraternity can no longer afford to be merely a head of legal department. Instead, they also must be technology leaders, fully versed on how technology intersects with and can enable their core goals. A recent Accenture survey revealed that regulations are getting tougher, budgets tighter, and the price of compliance is growing. While 87% of survey respondents expect investment in compliance to increase, a sweeping majority, 72%, in fact, report they are targeting compliance cost reductions of more than 10% over the next 3 years. Meaning, compliance is facing a widening gap between external demands and internal capabilities. As cost optimization happens and expectations for productivity and efficiency skyrocket, an intelligent compliance operating model, one that uses data and intelligent insights to unlock new sources of value across the enterprise, can help the compliance function outmaneuver uncertainty and shift the focus from transactional activities to more strategic initiatives. By transforming business processes to be more data-driven, intelligent, and digital, compliance leaders can work more efficiently, scale operations faster, and eradicate costs across the compliance function to keep pace with regulatory demand, provide strategic guidance, and drive sustainable growth. To accelerate the journey to intelligent compliance operations, companies should bring together teams comprised of human and machines. Blending human ingenuity with intelligent digital technologies helps extract clear insights and fuels more informed decisions and positive outcomes. 2, powerful insights and intelligence, leveraging the strength of industry-specific benchmarks to measure current performance and identify trends and opportunities provides a path to stronger results. 3, smooth work orchestration, assigning the right task to the right resource under tech-savvy talent, using tech-savvy talent, agile workforce techniques, and artificial intelligence helps ensure more accurate business-enhancing decisions. Lastly, diverse data. Collecting, monitoring, storing, and analyzing and reporting structured and unstructured data from diverse sources across the enterprise lays the groundwork to make more informed predictive decisions. Before I conclude, I would once again like to thank Akriti for giving me this opportunity and extending my warmest wishes to all the panelists and participants to have a wonderful and enriching and impactful sessions. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajeev, for that very interesting opening keynote remarks that aptly summed up, not only with respect to the challenges ahead. Yes, we have to be in tune with the tech age coming forward. We have to look forward to new challenges that are there with respect to transition from various energy resources. Indeed, very significant opening keynote remarks, Rajeev, that aptly sum up not only the important vision that you have for the GenNext forum, but also for our legal counsel community at large. Thank you so much. Indeed, some very interesting remarks from that. Thank you, gratitude. And it's indeed a matter of great privilege for all of us that Rajeev is an integral part of the legal era community since inception. Thank you, Rajeev, once again. And we look forward to taking this journey forward in a more strengthful manner. Thank you.